So stage 1 is this 1-to-1 counterpoint. Stage 2, 2-to-1 counterpoint. And we use this as the basis for it. Now, how do you add in notes? You look at what you've got. And you think, well, first question is this. Question 1, can I use a non-chord tone or should I use a chord tone? What do I mean? Well, I already gave an example here. Here it made much more sense to use a chord tone to make it so that we can really define this harmony better. So this is a good example where if you got to this one, you'd say, well, no, I should use a chord tone because I want to hear the harmony better. Here, however, we have the root and the third. We very clearly hear the harmony. So we need to think, how do we get from here to here? And you know all about non-chord tones now, so you know you have actually just a couple of choices because you can only squeeze one note in between. From my thinking, this is, if I do this. If I need to go to that, I've got two choices. This as an anticipation, or this as an escape tone. And these are your choices. You know, when you look at notes that are a step apart and you want to use a non-chord tone, then you can use, you can use an escape tone, you could use an appoggiatura, or you can use an anticipation. I think that's about it. Those are your only choices. In this case, you can't use, by the way, you can't use an appoggiatura, because if you were to leap, well, you just get a chord tone, right? This is a D, as a B. B is in the one chord. So this isn't a non-chord tone. But there will be times where leaping and stepping into the next note is possible, and they're a step away. Anyway, I like this as an escape tone. And again, you go back to the shape of the line. What gives the line the nicest shape? I want to add in, as I said earlier, this A sharp. The A sharp gives us more definition to the harmony. And then we continue on with that. And I've got this. I've got that. Well, what shall I do? I mean, I could do a couple of things. I could do this, right? That's a chord tone, but whatever, I can do that. I can do it in anticipation. So if I play this back. That's okay, but I want to think a little bit about the line as well. This has a nice shape. Maybe it makes sense to keep that, but maybe it might be nicer to, we've gone down this third, we've come back up. Maybe we want to leap down again to give the line even more shape. So what if we did that? Well, then we get this big leap, and then we get a big leap up again, and we don't really want that. Generally, the suggestion is if you're going to leap down by like a fourth or more, you want to step out of it in the opposite direction, generally speaking. You don't always have to. Sometimes you do an arpeggiation, and it's no problem. Here, well, we've got another chord tone here, right here, and I could go up to that, and then I could leap back up. And now that I've leaped up this fourth, I could come back down by step. Maybe that might be nice, because I need to land on that note anyway. So maybe I'll do that. And, well, my situation is such that at this point I've got that. So it'd be nice actually if this and this were next to each other because they're a step apart. So what if I did this, had that, and then, well, I said you can't repeat notes, right? I mean, unless it's like an anticipation. We have this as a kind of suspension going there. And then we leap back up. Okay, let's hear it so far. okay, well, this isn't bad so far, but again, I may seem obsessed with this issue of turbulence, but it's a worthy issue to get obsessed about with counterpoint. Again, nice shape here, up, leap down, come back up, go back down, come up. I think we need a really clear, direct line at this point. When I look at what we've got here, that's not going to be possible, right? Because basically, if we were to draw a line between all of this, we're going to do basically this, go down and come back up. So when I assess the situation, I say to myself, okay, well, then maybe what I really want to do is not aim for this B. I want to aim for this B, because that would be really nice to have this very clear line that goes all the way down this way. That's quite easy to achieve, at least up to this point, because look, these are a third apart. Any notes that are a third apart, you should be able to voice lead through by passing tone. So that's easy enough. And again, we're going down here, so you say, well, why don't you use the raised 7th scale degree? Like here, this is the A sharp, you should use the A sharp. No. When you go up, you usually, if you go up with a scale, that is, if you go up linearly, you often find you use raised notes, like in this case it would be the G sharp and the A sharp. But we're going down. This is, if any of you have ever played melodic minor scales, you notice when you go up, the 6th and 7th scale degrees are raised, and when you go down, they're lowered. And that's basically what happens. That's why it's called melodic minor. That's basically what happens with melodies. And so we're going to do the same thing, which is very convenient for us because it's going to allow us to pass right through this without the augmented second, right? If we had to use the raised A, an A sharp, then we get this augmented second, and it would make it impossible to get to this note without the augmented second, which would be terrible. Okay, so if I am trying to get to this note, then I could do basically what I did in the very beginning, right? I could do this escape tone and leap down there, and that would be kind of nice, because if we're going to end up going all the way down here, it'd be nice that it's not just a scale. What you don't want in counterpoint is just always these lines. That's even worse. That's like as bad as turbulence. To go just like this. Whoops. Like this. This you really don't. Well, I mean, you don't want to do it for so long. Something wrong with 5 notes or so, 4 or 5 notes going in one direction, but you do want little bumps here and there, and that's going to be possible if we add in this escape tone. So we get like that. And then from here, we can do that. And now we get this leap up, step down, then a little bump up, a little tiny leap back down, and continue all the way down to the end. And this will give us a really nice, clear line. And now this thing actually, when we get here, I don't think this makes sense to analyze as a 164. We're not going to hear it as a 164. We're going to just hear it as 5. So I'm going to take it out, and I'm going to change it to 5. I'm going to erase this because there's 1 is enough. And let me play this back. Let me just review. I mean, there's a lot presented here, and there's some information for doing all of this online as well that I put up on the course page. But it's worth reviewing real quick. We start off with our baseline. We write a 1-to-1 counterpoint against that. And the thing that we're really worried about with the 1-to-1 counterpoint is that A, we use only chord tones. B, we don't have any of these voice leading problems like parallel octaves, parallel fifths, hidden octaves, etc., etc. We don't have any repeated notes, that is, like what we would have here, for instance, or we could have had here. Let's say a G and then a G. We don't have anything like that. And we are concerned with shape. As much as we can be concerned with shape, as much control as we can exercise over the shape of a 1-to-1 counterpoint where we have such limitations, we want to make sure we have some kind of shape. 2-to-1 counterpoint allows us to fix some of these shape issues that and sort of make it broader and expand it. And our main goals in 2-to-1 counterpoint: A, decide whether or not you should use a non-chord tone or a chord tone. As I explained here, it makes more sense with a chord tone. And if you're going to use a non-chord tone, look at the notes that you've got and see what kind of non-chord tones you can put in between those things. Again, be kind of obsessed with the shape. Leaping down a third and continuing in the same direction, no problem. Leaping down a fourth and continuing in the same direction, little bit of a problem. Anything bigger than a fourth, you definitely want to avoid just leaping down. That's not the case, though. The exception is that's not the case if you're doing an arpeggio. So let's say this stayed on a 1 chord, and if you went to this F sharp, and then you went to a D, and then you went to a B, well, that's fine, because that's just arpeggiation. But you wouldn't want to leap here and then leap into, say, from there into, say, the C sharp down here, or back up to the C sharp. That you wouldn't want to do. And while you're doing all this, be obsessed not just with the shape of the line, but nonetheless the audibility of the harmonic progression. I think that summarizes more or less a solid foundation for what you need to know for this basic kind of counterpoint. This topic is often really difficult for students, and it takes a lot of practice. So I want you to treat your own activities with counterpoint this week as just practice. There may be a lot of questions, and those things please post up on the discussion forum, and we can sort them out on discussion forum where it's possible. And don't aim to be, by the end of the week, feeling as though you could write the Bach's Tempo Clavier yourself. That won't happen at all. But if you have a basic feel of the kind of what really is a kind of putting together of a puzzle of sorts that comes with writing counterpoint, I think then that you will have successfully achieved what I imagine you should achieve this week.